Well, I thought it was about time to provide you my in-depth review of Voyage. This is a massive wooden roller coaster built by Gravity Group, opened in 2006. Currently, it's the second longest wooden roller coaster on the planet, only beaten by the legendary Beast. This roller coaster has received high praise from coaster enthusiasts, and I would be lying if I said that this wasn't one of my most anticipated new coasters in 2020. Unfortunately, I was only able to obtain one ride on this roller coaster, and that was due to a few factors. First was the virtual queue. Every time I tried to reserve a time, I was greeted with a massive 2-hour wait, or I was told the queue was full and to try later. What was weird is that I actually never saw a line, so I wonder why this roller coaster kept pushing out massive wait times. Thunderbird, on the other hand, seemed to always have the queue full, and the wait time in for the virtual queue was like 40 minutes, so I don't know. The other reason was the weather. About midday, a thunderstorm rolled into the area and shut down all the attractions for about 2 hours. My one and only ride was in the very front row, and again, even though they were claiming long lines, the train was only about half full after waiting 10 minutes in the station. And yes, that's already including the half-filled trains due to the virus. Alright, let's take a voyage into this review. Presentation. I don't think I need to spend much time on this topic, but Voyage is a well-presented roller coaster. The ride towers over the entire park. The station and small spaghetti bowl of track wrapping around the station look great, and hearing the coaster whoosh by can really get your heart racing. Theming itself is very minimal, but I wasn't expecting much. The ride itself is the theme. Take a voyage out into the woods and back. Presentation gets a 7. Ride intensity. Starting off with a whopping 154-foot drop, this roller coaster feels more like a hypercoaster than your traditional style Woody. In fact, the entire first third of the ride functions more like a hypercoaster. Even for Gravity Group, the layout is very unusual. During the first, second, and third drops is where you experience the longest sustained airtime of the ride. After completing the giant airtime hills, the ride transitions into the first spaghetti bowl of track, or also many call this part the turnaround. This is probably my favorite part of the ride. You're flying through the woods, performing sharp overbank turns, dodging trees. It's a fun part of the ride, and the elements are what I'm looking for from a Gravity Group coaster. The ride then comes to the block brake, trim brakes. The train feels like it might stall out, but suddenly you're diving through the ground, picking up more speed. From here on out, the train dives in and out of the ground, wrapping under the giant airtime hills, all while gaining more speed. Voyage starts to get that out-of-control feeling. Once you reach back to the station area, instead of bringing this already long roller coaster to a close, the train performs one more victory lap around the station, flying through yet another tunnel and into the brakes, all with some gas left in the tank. For those looking for some positive G's, they'll get a few doses throughout the ride. If you love airtime, Voyage has a lot of that too, but I'd argue not as strong as I was expecting, but still a nice helping. Laterals, Voyage has plenty of that too. I would argue that Voyage is an all-around good coaster. Ride intensity gets an 8.5. Fun factor. As I already mentioned, Voyage is an all-around good thrill machine. It practically delivers almost every force that you would want on a wooden coaster. However, with that said, I don't think it fully excels in any one category. The airtime is good, but not as great as I hoped. The laterals are fun, but this ride has a lot of overbank turns, so not as many laterals. But who really cares, honestly, because I love some of that hang time from those turns. Positive G's, yes, there are a couple spots like at the bottom of the first couple airtime hills. I would say this force is on par with every other wooden coaster. Now, if there was a category that Voyage excels in, that's the ride time. This coaster is long, outdoing the majority of your hyper coasters even. According to RCDB, the ride time is about 3 minutes, which is above the average coaster ride time of about 2 minutes. Fun factor gets a 9.5. Originality. When comparing Voyage to all the other wooden roller coasters I've ridden, this attraction feels like the best of compilation. It's an out and back layout with twister sections. You got your tunnels, head choppers, overbank turns, underbank turns, airtime hills, speed hills, floater airtime hills, fast transitions. This ride does it all. Voyage is a product of its time, as no one is building wooden roller coasters like this anymore. At the turn of the century and during the past decade, roller coasters were all about one-upping each other in speed, track length, and height. Well, Voyage practically wiped the floor clean in these categories. Well, sort of. It's actually kind of surprising that a wooden coaster this big didn't really break any records, except for the amount of airtime you would experience, which I would argue is subjective. I didn't feel like there was 24 seconds of airtime, but again, the ride is so long that it might be hard to track while enjoying your first experience. In the end, Voyage is a unique wooden roller coaster that deserves a 10 rating for originality. Ride smoothness. Before taking my first spin, I was told that Voyage had some rough spots. Well, the ride did undergo a massive retracking during the off-season, and that must have paid off because I really didn't think this roller coaster was rough. Sure, it has that wooden roller coaster rattle, but I didn't find myself bracing for impact like I did on Legend or Raven. I was also riding in the front row, which is usually the smoothest ride on a Woody. Until I give Voyage another go, 8.5 is my score for ride smoothness. Okay, the final score comes to 8.7, which is a great score. If I were to look back at my Legend review, I gave a higher score to this ride than I did for Legend, and I actually prefer Legend over Voyage. Well, this is the technical score, and when you account for the ride layout and smoothness, I think this gives Voyage an edge over Legend. My personal score is going to be a 9. I really like this roller coaster, but I was somewhat disappointed because I thought I was going to be giving this coaster a 10. Now, the biggest ding to any of my review of this roller coaster is my one ride. I don't think one ride is enough to accurately judge a roller coaster, so for those who have this attraction ranked considerably higher, there's still hope that after getting a few more rides in, my appreciation for Voyage will only increase. This ride has potential, and I'm glad that Holiday World is up to the task of keeping it in tip-top shape. If you have never ridden Voyage, this ride should be on your bucket list. The sheer size of this project should be enough to entice any coaster enthusiast to give this thing a chance. Holiday World is a great amusement park, and I love how well they have kept their rides operating. Honestly, I only believe that this ride will continue to get better over time and not depreciate like other coasters may. Thank you for watching today's review. Let me know in the comments what you think of this legendary wooden roller coaster. If you enjoyed this video, please click that like button and subscribe. That way you won't miss out on more great content coming your way by XscreamThrills.